Stimpert. Fedorov.
Yes.
Bariak.
Yes, here.
Splitzer
Present.
and Rifner.
Present.
Okay,
President.
are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
On this right here for approval of previous minutes, is this where we'd make a change, or do we wait until you get down to the approval?
I thought we'd wait till the minutes itself.
Okay, thank you.
Was that all right, Bruce? We can wait? Thank you. Okay, let's get going then here. Special presentations by staff members or consultants, public comments. To agenda items only. Do we have anybody who wants to speak on the agenda tonight?
Connie Bright, 326 Washington. Now, according to again, this isn't anything personal. I think it's considered the work agreement that you're about to pass because it's.
Could you speak up, sir, a little bit? Put that up a little bit, please. Is that up as high as it'll go? Okay.
I'll hold it up if you want. This is concerning the work agreement that you're about ready to pass. You know, I did some research. Nowhere in the United States can I find a work agreement where someone cannot be removed unless you're the owner of the company. So I would like to know, because I also went through the minutes of the meeting where we passed the contracts with the prior council, and I almost brought them up to read from the people that support everything, because they were really against it, and you guys were against it in court. You said it wasn't good, and actually, if you didn't think it was a bad idea, why did we appeal and spend all the money on the lawsuit? Because if you were against it then, why aren't you against it now? Just tell me, if you can tell me one contract where you cannot be removed for only a felony and there's no checks and balances, I'll shut up and never say nothing again. One agreement in the United States where you can fire you can't be fired only for a felony. Not saying nothing about the money, not saying nothing about anything else. If you can provide one contract, work agreement, or whatever you call it, where you can't be removed for a felony, then I will sit down, shut up, and I won't even run for council, nothing. Because obviously somebody up there smarter than me. Just go back on what you told the judge under disposition when you said it was a bad agreement. And we paid all that money for a lawsuit. Because that's why you removed the person, that's what you said. But now totally, in a few months, so if you were telling the truth then, what are you doing now? Just one. That's it.
Anyone else like to address council tonight?
Rick Curlin, 1009, Woodland.
Just one.
I'm speaking in reference to the contract work order
Anyone else
for
like
the
to
city
speak on
manager.
tonight?
I'm not saying I agree with what Judge Cynthia Rice said, but the one person who mattered was Cynthia Rice. Rick Curlin, 1009, she rolled the contract with Glen Allen. So she ruled it valid. The city law director back then ruled it valid. I don't believe that I've seen anything like that, but the judge ruled it valid. There's really not much to say after that. If it's taken further, it's taken further. That's up to the insurance company. But you know, I've been wrong a lot of times, and apparently I was wrong on this employment contract because Judge Cynthia Rice ruled it valid. Thank you.
If there's anyone else, please step forward now. If not, I'll close this. Okay? No one else? Closed? First of all, we're gonna start off with reports then. And first, on the mayor. I'm glad to see that the senior kitchen was opened back up. There's been a very decent response to it. I didn't attend anything else this week. I'll reserve my comments as we go along. Would we please have council members now? We start out with Mr. Fedorov first.
Yes, I have to offer my apologies to Councilwoman Spletzer, the Parks and Rec meeting. I told her that yes, I would be there in her place, I may alter it, and I did not put it on the calendar, and so I forgot. I apologize if I caused you any problems there. Thank you.
Mrs. Spletzer,
I have nothing to report.
Mr. Rufner.
Yeah, I'd just like to go ahead and make sure everybody's aware that tonight is the late night in the falls. So for anybody interested, 6 to 10 p.m. uptown, come out, meet the local merchants, spend a little bit of time talking. It's a good time, grab some coffee, relax. Also with that, annual chili cook-off Saturday, Broad Street between the intersections of Canal and Center. And I'd also like to draw a bit of recognition for the Newton Falls Area Commerce Association. If you haven't seen it already, they put the new sign up, or rebuilt the sign out at the corner of 5 and First Street. Looks real nice. They've done a really good job, and the materials they used this year, this time around, are meant to last. So they're actually powder coated tin, everything welded together. Gonna beat the heck out of the tin or styrofoam that was up there before. Again, you go by, take a look at it, and again, you know, recognition out to the Commerce Association for that. Thank you.
The Finance Director, sir. Oh, excuse me, Mrs. Stemper.
Thank you. I do not have anything at this time.
Thank you. We'll go on then with the Finance Director, sir. Report.
Yes, sir. September's closed. The report's been distributed to everyone. Month of August is reconciled. I sent out some tax letters to delinquent filers, and probably around 1,900. I can tell you that there's been a lot of involvement from the taxpayers in the community with communicating with the finance department, and our participation in the finance department with the taxpayers to aid them in whatever needs to be done to get their documentation submitted to RITA. I also sent out a notice in the utility bills informing the community about RITA, who they are, and how they could contact RITA if they needed to for anything. And that I have nothing else to report.
Thank you. We'll go on with the city manager's report. The law director isn't here tonight.
Yes, just to give everybody a little bit of update on the Scott Street Sewer Project. The project is moving forward.
Mrs. Fritter, can you speak up just a little bit more?
My mic is not working.
Now.
My mic is not working.
Okay, oh, sorry. I wondered why we couldn't hear it.
The Scott Street Sewer Project, just to give everybody a little bit of an update. The bid has been awarded. You'll see information on tonight's agenda regarding the company that has been chosen. And I'm going to ask that you please pass this as an emergency, because there are timelines that we have to meet in order to progress this project forward and be awarded the forgiveness loan by this month, so they can begin the process of the work. The company chosen only has 10 months to complete the project once they've been awarded the bid. So that's why there's time constraints there that we need to make sure that these people can get the work started. So for your consideration, please, look at it as an emergency, because it is an emergency that they can get this project started and underway. The next thing is, I'll pass out to all of you, we've got the latest Sheriff's Department report that has come in, so I'll pass that out. Roof repairs. Everybody, just to let you know, the insurance carrier has come back with the final numbers on the roof repairs. And there was another bid, another company that bid on some of the roofs, and all of them fell under $25,000. So I was able to approve those, and the insurance carrier is paying some of the cost of those roofs. So those monies will be allocated to each department that filed a claim for the roofs. Just to let everybody also know, the paving project, we moved the paving project up 1 year from 2025 to 2024. And the roads that will be paved in 2024 are Church Street, Maple, Bain, and Oak Knoll. So when that comes around, we'll be paving those roads in 2024. And just to give everybody an update also on the water plant, the last meeting we had, everyone saw that, there was a part that was needed for the water plant, which is considered the brains of the water plant. And I want all of you to kind of take a look at these pictures that were sent to me. As you can see, the equipment is corroded. It's in the basement of the water plant. It is corroded. We had an issue last weekend where this computer system went down. We had no communication with the water tower. We had no communication with the reservoir, nothing. So that's why we have emergencies, and we're able to pass legislation to get these parts as needed for these guys. And one of the things that I have stressed to these departments is we need to get more on a preventative measure. So instead of being reactive all the time, luckily we were able to call in over the weekend some help to get it back up and running so the communication can start again with the water tower and the reservoir. So that has happened. They're monitoring it every day. It could go down again. That's why we need to pass tonight that piece of equipment so we can get that done and get that going. But I wanted everybody to see exactly what's going on with this piece of equipment. They are going to move it upstairs to stop maybe some of the corrosion that's happening downstairs because of all the moisture of the water. So just so everybody, if anybody wants to take a look at it, you can take a look at it and see that it's not healthy down there. So they're going to be replacing that entire box and moving it upstairs. And just to let everyone know too, Cody is taking his Class 3 license in November, the test for his Class 3. So hopefully I wish him luck passing the test, and hopefully he does, and then we'll have a Class 3 operator, our own Class 3 operator down at that water plant. He was able, like I said, to call in a lot of resources to help him with what occurred. If we couldn't get those communications back with the water tower and the reservoir, it could have cost us a lot of issues with the EPA. And luckily, the consulting firm that we had hired and put in place temporarily to help Cody, they were able to come through for him. They called in Protect also, look at the computer system, see if they could get it back up and running, and they were able to do that temporary. It's a Band-Aid on there, but at least it's a Band-Aid, and we're every day watching it to make sure that it continues to move along properly at this point. And with that, that's all I have at this time.
Any questions for the city manager? I have one when it comes my turn. Any questions for the city manager? I was wanting to ask you, Mrs. Pretty, did we, an update on the Dunkin' Donut, did we receive the check? And where is the annexation? Could you elaborate on that?
Yes.
I'm gonna let you elaborate on it.
The property has been sold. We received the check last Friday, I believe it was Friday. I went down and signed the paperwork and got the payment. It's been, I believe, deposited by the finance department. So yes, the annexation process has started, and we're just waiting for the attorneys to do the rest of the work on it and file it.
Thank you. If there's no other comments, anyone else would like the floor to address questions of the city manager? Then we're gonna go on. Approval of previous minutes now, Mr. Federoff.
Okay, I'd like to make the motion, I believe it's September 11th, that those meetings, minutes be held in abeyance until next regular council meeting.
I'll second that. Mr. Federoff, what motion is for September 11th meeting minutes to be held back to be approved September 18th. Is that the motion, sir?
That's the motion, yes, sir.
And, okay, and,
Do you mean October 18th? You said September. You mean October 18th?
September.
it was a good month. October 18th, excuse me.
Yeah.
Correct the
okay.
record. So we'll be voting on each one of these tonight separately and not as a blanket. I'm gonna go ahead and, minutes for special meeting, minutes, February 25th, 2022.
John, you have a motion on the floor. You need to have the roll call.
You
Oh,
want to postpone that.
oh, I'm
September
sorry.
11th.
Thank you. A motion on the floor to postpone the, September 11th. Yeah, we had it first and second on. I'm gonna call for the roll on that then. On the September 11th meeting.
Stemper,
Yes.
Federoff,
Yes,
Bariak,
Yes,
Spitzer,
Yes.
Rufner,
Yes.
6 yes.
thank you. Now we're gonna go through each one of these. Tonight, I want to put a motion to accept the special meeting minutes, February 25th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Anybody like to speak on that, sir? Mr. Rufner recognized?
I would like to request to be, how you call it, excused from the vote since I was not on council and was not present for that meeting.
You want to recuse yourself,
Yes.
sir? Motion to recuse, Mr. Rufner.
I'll second that.
I would like to amend the motion. I would like to add Mr. Federoff as well. He was not on council at that time either. So both individuals need to recuse.
I don't think it's in February, but
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, we'll go along with that.
Okay, so let's get this motion straightened out. Motion was put on the floor by Mr. Rufner to recuse himself. Would you mind, Mr. Rufner, if I added Mr. Federoff to your motion, sir?
I agree.
It can.
Can't do that?
No. It comes from an individual. A request that they be excused
That's
from
right.
voting.
Yeah.
All right, well, then let's
Want to vote on Rufner's first?
vote on Mr. Rufner's first, then, you're right.
Stemper,
Yes.
Federoff,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes,
Spitzer,
Yes.
Rufner.
He's recused.
Oh, sorry, Rufner, you've recused.
You almost got me.
5 yes.
now is there a motion to recuse Mr. Federoff since he
I'll
was
make a
not here?
motion that I also be excused from vote on that particular meeting of the minutes, February 25th,
Yes.
2022.
To recuse Mr. Federoff. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Roll call, please, to recuse Mr. Federoff too.
Stemper,
Yes.
Federoff. I'm sorry, there we go again. You're
That's all right.
Bariak,
Yes,
Spitzer,
Yes.
okay. Now, motion to accept the February 25th, 2022 minutes.
recused.
With the recusals.
Is there, to accept There's only 3 of us left.
Yeah,
Motion to accept the February 25th. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Stimpert,
No.
Bariak,
Yes.
Splitzer,
Yes.
2 yes, 1 no.
Okay.
I think that it passes. Okay, next one on the list, September 20th, right?
September. What did we do with the 11th? Did we already take care of that?
Yeah, that's been rescheduled for October 18th.
What's that, Bud?
That's been rescheduled for
Yeah.
October 18th.
Right, we voted on it. Okay, that's what I thought. All right. Regular meeting minutes, September 20th. To adopt them, accept them. 2023 regular meeting minutes. Do I
I'll
have a
make
motion to accept them?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second by Mr. Federoff. We have the roll call, please.
Stimpert,
Yes.
Federoff,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Splitzer,
Yes.
Rufner,
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, we're gonna go on to public hearings. Public hearings, ordinance 2023-30. Mr. Housley, will you please read the ordinance by title?
Ordinance number 2023-30, an emergency ordinance reappointing Bradrick Bryan as the Director of Law and authorizing the city manager to enter into a Director of Law agreement. Ordinance 2023-31, an ordinance on...
No, we're gonna go on one at a time.
Okay.
Excuse me. Do we have any discussion on that? First of all, do we have a motion to, want to put this motion on the floor? Do I have a second on this motion for ordinance 2023-30?
It's just a hearing.
Public hearing.
These are just public hearings.
Huh?
These are just public hearings.
Oh, these are just public hearings. That's, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Would anybody like to address the council? This- All right, I rule that closed on public hearings. Ordinance 2023-31. Would you read that by title, Mr.?
Sure. Ordinance 2023-31, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to accept the quote of ProTech Systems Group Incorporated for a water treatment plant programmable logic controller remote terminal unit upgrade.
Would anybody like to address the chair on this, the floor? Come to me. I rule that closed then. Ordinance 2023-34. Mr. Housley, will you read the ordinance by title, sir?
Ordinance 2023-34, an ordinance authorizing certain amendments to the appropriations for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023, and authorizing the finance director to amend and file certificate of resources with the county auditor.
Do I have anyone who would like to address the floor? Chair. I rule that closed then. Ordinance 2023-35. Mr. Housley, would you read that by title?
Ordinance 2023-35, an ordinance authorizing the transfer of funds.
Would anybody like to address the chair? I'm going to rule that closed then. Ordinance 2023-36. Mr. Housley, would you read that ordinance by title, sir?
Ordinance 2023-36 and ordinance authorizing an amended city manager employment agreement.
Would anyone like to address the chair on that? I'm going to rule that closed. Ordinance 2023-37. Mr. Housley, would you read that by title?
Ordinance 2023-37 and ordinance establishing section 153.03 of the Administrative Code pertaining to credit hours for full-time department heads and superintendents who are salaried employees.
Anybody like to address the chair? I rule that closed. Ordinance 2023-37.
Ordinance 2023-37.
Would you read that by title, sir? Mr. Housley, would you read that?
We just did 37, John.
We
And 38.
We're on
Did we-
38.
38.
we already did that one?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going down here real quick. 2023-38. Mr. Housley, will you read that by,
Yes. Ordinance
please.
2023-38 and ordinance authorizing the city manager to accept the bid of Gorilla Contractors Incorporated for the State Route 5 and State Route 534 sanitary force main lateral service sewer project.
anyone like to address the chair? I rule that closed. Ordinance 2023-38. Mr. Housley, would you read that by title?
We're on 39.
We're on 39, that's right.
Okay.
I got X's off.
All right.
Mr. Housley, will you read that by title, please?
Ordinance 2023-39 and ordinance authorizing the transfer of funds.
Would anybody like to address the chair on that? I rule that closed. Okay, we're gonna go on to unfinished business. Ordinance 2023-30. Mr. Housley, will you read that by title?
Ordinance 2023-30, an emergency ordinance reappointing Bradrick Bryan as the Director of Law and authorizing the city manager to enter into a Director of Law agreement.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion, please. Anyone like to discuss that? Okay. No, if there's no discussion, would Mr. Housley please call the roll?
We had a motion. Did I hear a second?
Yeah.
Bud made the second. Okay, give me 1 second, Bud. Stimpert,
If I could, excuse me, could I have a second address on that? I'd like to check, is this something that we possibly should make as an emergency so that we don't have to wait for 30 days before we can pay Mr. Bryan?
Yeah, it is an emergency ordinance.
The problem is that it failed the first time, but with the new charter changes, it has to have an additional 2 readings. So it
Okay.
didn't pass as an emergency the first time around, so there's an
But-
additional 2 readings.
But he'll be getting his check right away because we had a real problem trying to find an attorney for law director.
No, it still would be the 30 days after.
Okay, still the 30 days after?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to call the roll then.
Stimpert,
Yes.
Fedorov,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Rufner,
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Ordinance 2023-31. Mr. Housley, would you read that again by title?
an ordinance authorizing the city manager to accept the quote of Protect Systems Group Incorporated for a water treatment plant programmable logic controller remote terminal unit upgrade.
Do I have a motion to accept that?
Make that motion?
I'll second.
First by Mr. Fedorov, seconded by Mrs. Stemper. Discussion?
All right.
You recognize, sir.
Just a quick question for clarification on this. Are we the ones that are doing the installation, ma'am?
No, ProTech would do the installation.
The reason I'm asking is if you go to your Exhibit A, page 2, paragraph 1, it tells you standard exclusions. And it specifically states the installation, mounting, and so on and so forth within their contract. That's why I was asking that question. Standard exclusions, our scope excludes the mounting installation of all devices, enclosures, instruments, field devices, etc. Field interconnect wiring drawings, conduit schedules, all piping including spool pieces, conduit, wiring, cabling, and mounting hardware, phone lines, radio towers, repeaters, other stuff that we don't have in our package. So that's why I was asking who's doing the installation, because their quote specifically says standard exclusions for the installation.
Okay, I have asked the question. I was under the impression and told that they would be doing the installation. So
I just want to
I've
make,
asked the question.
just want to make sure that
Yep.
we're not going to sit with further expenses coming.
Nope, I've asked the question on it. So as soon as I get the answer, I'll let you know.
Would anybody else like to have? Go ahead, Mr. Rufner.
Ms. Bragg, I would like to make a motion to table this ordinance until the end of the meeting when we get response back, or until the next meeting when we get a response to the question.
Motion on the floor to table this.
Well, I got a real quick question here. We already have a motion and a second that we have to deal with, so, where do we go from here?
The motion to table is in order, but it has to be unqualified. It has to be just limited to the motion to table. It's in order.
We can go ahead with the motion to table,
Yes.
Okay,
that's what I thought. All right, I'm putting the motion on. Mr. Rufner wants a motion to table this ordinance until next week.
No,
I
the
will
end-
second
no,
it.
end of the meeting.
The end of the
End of
meeting.
meeting.
The end of the meeting.
You can't table, it has to be unqualified. You just table or you don't table.
All right, table this.
Till the end of the meeting.
No, it's unqualified.
It's unqualified, was that what you said?
Yes, it has to be unqualified. Either you table or you don't table. If the motion to table carries, then it remains on the table unless taken from the table until the end of the next regular meeting.
Hold on just one second.
So if I understand it right, we're tabling,
Hold on just one second.
hold on.
Cody said ProTech will install it.
And just for clarification, that is included in the quote that we've got.
Yes.
Do you want to withdraw your motion to table now, sir?
Yes.
The motion is withdrawn. So we're going to go back to where
Yeah, we-
discussion. And does anybody else want to first,
Yeah, first address.
you recognize Mr. Fedorov?
This right here is the brains, more or less, of the computer system that controls the operation of the water plant. It's a absolute necessary. We need to get it done as quickly as possible. And I guess even, if I'm correct, even changing it to emergency wouldn't free up everything any faster. But this is something that has to be done now. Should have been done before, but it's got to be done now.
I understand that. But even passing it by an emergency, may I have the floor?
Sure. Yes.
Are you done, sir?
I'm
Does
done.
anybody else want the floor? Then I'd like to I'd like to have the floor. Would you like to have the floor? Anybody else? Mrs. Stempert?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Would you like to have the floor, Mrs. Splutzer? Passing this by an emergency wouldn't get us a piece of equipment there any quicker, would it, Mrs. Purdy?
No, it would not.
Okay, so that's why we're not gonna go with it, but this should have been taken care of a long time ago. A lot of things have been let go, and now we're paying the price. It is what it is. With that being said, I'd like to put a vote on it. There's no more discussion.
Okay, Fedorov,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Rufner,
Yes.
Stempert.
Yes,
Motion passes. Mr. Housley, would you read 2023-34, sir, by title?
Ordinance 2023-34, an ordinance authorizing certain amendments to the appropriations for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2023, and authorizing the finance director to amend and file certificate of resources with the county auditor.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Stempert,
No,
Mrs.
I'm Spletzer.
Spletzer, excuse me, seconded by Mr. Fedorov. Discussion?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Rufner, you have the floor, sir.
Point of clarification and possible conflict. It appears that 2023-34 in the appropriations is not consistent with 2023-35 for the amounts and transfer the funds. 2023-35, which is the next one we're coming up to, says $20,000 from the general fund to the Park and Recs fund. But if I look at the appropriations data provided with 2023-34, the Park and Recs generic is getting 4,200, and Park and Recs Community Center is getting 1,600. That does not equal 20,000. So
I'm going to say that this is only approving the transfer here, and that there will be an appropriation in place before the transfer happens. So this can't, this transfer is not an appropriation measure. They are two separate measures, so.
Would anybody else like to have the floor? Go ahead.
For my second address, thank you. Question for the $1,600 going towards the community center. What is that specifically for?
The amount going towards the community center, essentially right now is just for utilities, because they've got some utilities that we have to pay.
With that, that brings to another question. If Heritage Accord still holds and continues the lease on the community center, they're in fact responsible for the utilities, not the city. So why are we putting $1,600 towards utilities?
May I address?
You may.
They no longer hold the lease. The lease was terminated. And we have verification of that. I had to get information to the judge. As of our last hearing date, the lease was terminated effective that same day. And we are then responsible as of the date the lease was terminated.
may I have an address?
Mrs. Stempert.
What, has any of this information been shared with council members? I read it on Facebook, I haven't gotten anything from City Hall in regards to Heritage Accord and the city.
Could you speak up just a little bit, Mrs. Stempert?
Okay, wait, we're addressing the appropriations measure. If you want to address the court case against Heritage Accord, that needs to be done at a different time?
I'm not sure why you're addressing me. I'm addressing that there's money being moved, and there's a court case involved with where the money's moving to. So I'm asking, did the city administrator allow all of council members to have any information or updates on the court case that's involved with the community center.
Mrs. Purdy, do you, or would you, we don't have the law.
I would like a parliamentarian to rule.
What's that?
What is the question?
We are dealing with an ordinance that specifically addresses appropriations. And now we're getting off track from the appropriations onto a totally different subject.
Well, I didn't hear that, but maybe you could clarify for me why the subjects aren't related between you and your colleague.
These are the appropriations that were included in our packet, and as a matter of fact, I believe these were given to us. I have these notes from the September 20th meeting. So this is the second time we've seen these numbers, and that's what this ordinance is about. It is about the appropriations, the numbers. It's not questions about a lawsuit or whether or not Heritage Accord still holds the lease on the community center.
Well, you asked a question, as I recall, and either you were satisfied with the answer or weren't. Your colleague asked a question, and either she was satisfied with the answer or she wasn't. That may help us. That's the only dispute I can see at the moment, is whether she was satisfied by the answer.
I was not given an answer.
Well, then maybe you ought to ask her question again in a different way.
Has council been updated on the situation with the community center involving the lawsuit? Money is being transferred to the community center, and there's a lawsuit there. Have you shared the information and updates with council? All of council?
Nobody has been updated at this point in time because the lawsuit was just settled last week, and we discussed what we were going to do moving forward. And when I got the information from the people that I needed to get it from, it was submitted to the judge. And at that time, that's when our attorney said that the lease was terminated and that we would move forward with doing what we needed to do as far as the grant and everything else. So that's all just been done. And at this point, I mean, there's really nothing to update council on other than the lease has been terminated at this particular moment.
Okay,
I have something on this, John.
yes.
I guess this would be at first addressed. Being on the administrative committee, if you would, I was very much aware of what's been going on. I take offense and I wonder about people's ability to understand exactly what a government is. We have an administrator that covers the administrative. This is not something that's up for public vote or comment on Facebook. Facebook is not how anything is being sent to the public. It's not an official, it's just Facebook, that's it. As soon as we have all the figures, the administration will give us the actual results, give everybody, public included, the actual results of the court case. This right here is merely a transfer of money that would make it available for use. That's not it. We're not spending that money at this moment. We're just transferring it into the proper fund so it can be spent. I take offense as to where some people think that everything has to have the stamp and approval vote of Facebook. I find that extremely irritating. That's mine. Thank you.
Okay, would anybody else like to have the floor for okay, roll call, please.
Federoff,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spetzer,
Yes.
Rufner,
No.
Stimpert,
No.
3 yes, 2 no.
Motion passes. Okay, we're gonna go on. Ordinance 2023-35. Mr. Housley, will you read the ordinance by title?
Ordinance 2023-35, and ordinance authorizing the transfer of funds.
I'll make the
Do I have
motion.
a motion to put that on the floor?
I made the motion.
I'll second that.
Motion's first, second. Okay, discussion, please. Anybody like to have the floor?
I would like to,
I would like to have Mr.
You
Housley weigh in on this.
You are
one.
recognized now, Mrs. Splitzer.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
I'm gonna ask Mr. Housley to explain this one.
sure, currently, there's not enough available resources in this fund to appropriate. So the appropriation will follow after the transfer from the general fund into this fund occurs. And if you look at 3034, the original appropriation measure, you'll notice there's a transfer out in the general fund of that $20,000. So I'm gonna move the money from the general fund, and once it's in cash, then I'll have enough available resources to create an appropriation measure. That's how they work. I don't have anything else to report on this.
Would anybody else like to have the floor?
I would like a second address. And if I recall when we discussed this.
Let me ask, anybody else want a first? Anybody, there's a lot of them didn't have a first. Anybody want a first? All right, go ahead, please, Mrs. Splitzer.
When we discussed this, this was specifically intended to be set aside or put into the account for the floor. We've got to get the company that's going to fix the foyer entranceway into the building on the project as soon as possible. So this $20,000 is going into the Park and Rec Fund specifically so that we can get the contractor to get working on the foyer and stabilize the building.
Okay. Would anybody else like to have a second? Okay,
May I have one more address?
what's that?
May I address council one more time on this?
You have the floor, sir.
I mean, I wouldn't say specifically, but, the intent is to cover having the place made safe enough for people to get in and do inspections, yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Call for the roll, please, Mr. Housley.
Bariak,
Yes.
Splitzer,
Yes.
Rufner,
No.
Stimpert,
No.
Federoff.
Yes.
3 yes, 2 no.
Motion passes. Mr. Housley, ordinance 2023-36. Ordinance, would you please read that ordinance, please?
Ordinance 2023-36, and an ordinance authorizing an amended city manager employment agreement.
Do I have a motion to put that on the floor?
Make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion, please.
I first address on this, please.
Go ahead, sir.
A lot of people have the misconception that there's a big line of people waiting to become city manager. This contract, when you consider what other communities are paying for a city manager, that everything has been done by Ms. Purdy while she's been our city manager, I think this is appropriate. Some people may not like it. This is not something that's up for, let's have a mob vote. You have representatives, this is a representative type of government. You have council people up here to represent you. And this is what, quite frankly, we've come up with for the best interest of the community. I think we're getting a deal. I don't think a lot of people realize everything that has been done with this administration. Quite frankly, a lot of it has been covering up and correcting things that were inherited by Ms. Purdy. Keeping in mind when she walked in here, that was it. She didn't even have so much as a pencil, get alone any records, and we had a deficit in our finances. Since then, we don't have a deficit. Since then, a lot of things have been uncovered and corrected. A lot of things that should have been normal maintenance have now been done, or in the process of being done. Things that, quite frankly, was wait until it breaks and then we'll fix it. I think we're getting a good deal with her, and my vote for the rest of the community is that we pass this contract. If someone doesn't like it, well, that's their problem, not mine. Thank you.
Anybody else like to address? Go ahead, Mr. Rufner.
All right. Well, basically, just to put this in a nutshell, $90,000 a year, locked in, guaranteed for 4 years with built-in annual increases, grants 6 weeks of paid vacation, and gives sole authority to hire personal assistant and set their wage. Obviously, council must approve it, but it's a recommendation, and we know where that'll go. All for a person with less than 3 years' experience in the position or in the position of a city manager. The only viable termination clause that's really enforceable is if she is convicted of a felony. We're being told this is justified based on a performance evaluation that was conducted by 2 members of council in secrecy out of the 6 that actually oversees the position. Take it for what it's worth. But realistically, when you look at this, this isn't just a $90,000 agreement. You've got to do the simple math. $90,000 for the city manager's position, plus how much for the additional position. So instead of $90,000, you're now talking $130,000 to $150,000 for this situation. How many other city managers have we had that had a personal assistant? In the past, they always shared the city council clerk. Why do we need a dedicated professional administrator?
Want anybody else?
I'm not done
Oh,
yet.
I'm sorry.
Over and over, we've been told that 90,000 is justified. I'd like to know who and how that number was reached. A simple Google search of salary.com, talent.com, Indeed, LinkedIn, and several other sites readily found that for a average salary for a village or city manager without benefits, and I'm going to specify that without benefits, is between $56,000 and $76,000 annually. That's average. People in the low end with no qualifications or no real relatable qualifications or specialized training starts in the range of just under $48K. The top salary earners for accredited professionals specializing in municipal government is $110,000. In my opinion, a person's salary is not based on the title, the position they sit in. It's based on the qualifications, the skills, the knowledge, the abilities, the certifications, accreditations that they bring to the table, not just because of a title. If you've been listening in all the arguments for this, everybody said, well, in the past we gave this, in the past they had that. Golden parachute clauses for termination, so on and so forth. Enough's enough. It's time that we actually seek out qualified professionals in the field of municipal government and pay them a regular salary and stop overinflating everything. Just because someone else got something doesn't mean the next person has to get it. Look at qualifications. ICMA, OML. If you're not accredited, why are you going to claim you're worth that? Final comment on this, simple enough, is termination clause. We've all heard it, we've all been through it. Just be honest with it. It's a protection clause. That's all it is. If it wasn't, council would be able to pass this on the merit alone. But since they can't, they're trying to ram it down the throats before the new council seated in November. Or at the very latest, January. Pass it now, stick it to the next council. That's what it comes down to. It's time we quit looking at the individual and look at what's best for the community. That's all I've got.
Anybody else? And I want to weigh in on my first. Look, they just gave a contract out for $73,500 plus benefits in Sebring, Ohio. Sebring, Ohio is about this big compared to Newton Falls. Just on what Mrs. Pretty has done, the grants, we're going to argue over 1 week's vacation from 5 to 6 weeks. We're going to argue over, even though the secretary, when both jobs are paying less than we paid the one before, plus benefits, the ex-clerk. There's no one can say that this administration is moving forward. Because of this administration and Mrs. Pretty, we now have the Scott Street Sewer Project. We picked up 113, it's 111, excuse me. There may be a couple more over there on the other side. Not a dime. Now, these aren't loans that the past administration, everything was a grant. It's all no-interest loans. These are true grants. She was instrumental in getting this new grant company, and they've been, look, Heritage Accord, I'm sorry, but they didn't have a plan. The money wasn't there. Somebody got the $5.6 million. $2.5 million, our bridge, our dams and the rivers, nothing was taken care of. But we spent a lot of money. We're paying off First Street. That was supposed to be a grant. Washington Street, that was supposed to be a grant. That's a no-interest loan. We've got bonds out on Medley. There's just so much that was unbelievable what this village was put into debt. We've been able to right the ship. Mrs. Pretty's worked for 6-8 months for nothing, not getting any benefits except what she has to have, the PERS and the life insurance, that's mandatory. So all in all, when you put the figures side by side, I'd like to give her double what she's getting, because there's nobody in the history of this town done more than what she's done and what's capable of doing. And you got people out there that might have degrees. We had one, had a Juris Doctorate. We had one that was management. Where did we go the last 30, 40 years, people? Where did we go? Anybody that's been here, where did we go? Nowhere. Nowhere. And now, let me give you a good one. We want to put the same people back in that broke the city. They want to recall Mrs. Spletzer over some little Facebook stuff. Who do you want to bring back? Lyle Waddell? I guarantee that's in the works. We want Lyle back? And we have another one that was on economic development. I'm not going to mention no names, but he quit. he was on the finance, and we had to straighten the finance out. Some of our investments were shaky at best. This administration has done more and cares about the seniors and cares about the people in this town, and Mrs. Purdy has spearheaded it. Now, you got people in that are just do anything to be vindictive, You got everybody, you're gonna get what you bought. If the people in this town don't realize where we're going and what we've been able to accomplish, Scott Street Sewer, Dunkin', that's another thing. I'm reading Facebook because that's the word of God. Somebody on there put Dunkin' Donuts is dead. Dunkin' Donuts is dead. Dunkin' Donuts is dead. The sky's falling. The sky's falling. It's going real good as far as we know. We had to wait on, like we were honest and told the people, we had to wait on the road evaluation to come through. The Scott Street Sewer Project. We're just going to award that. I don't know what else to say to the people in Newton Falls except that take a good look at what's been done and what can be done by one individual that cares about this community and gives her heart and soul. Now, I was on the committee to interview the city managers before. I think the cheapest one we came in here for was, well, some of them were 130, 140,000 plus benefits and that. We couldn't even interview them. We didn't have the money. But the closest ones we interviewed were like 100, 115, plus all the bennies. Give me a break. Give me a break. I feel that if somebody's doing that well, they should have the opportunity to do the job, not because of vindictiveness and spitefulness. If you can actually show me somebody right now that would do a better job than she's done, I would have considered it. I'm not coming here into this community. I've been here 74 years. Do you think I want this community to do bad? I'm sorry to get emotional, but when you start running somebody into the ground and not taking a look at what's been done, and oh, by the way, I didn't give all those no-cut contracts out, which were done for the protection of the good employees. How much better could it have been? We were almost bankrupt. How much more could we have protected? I'm just saying, let's take a look at the facts of what's been done. The employees, all the employees, they're not up here tonight, but they enjoy working with her. We've got a good team in there now of young employees. We want to, hopefully the village will try to pass a 0.25% so we can get a couple more to help the street department. 0.25% to either go towards bringing our police department back or getting an extra sheriff on there, which everybody wanted a police department. Do you remember when it failed 1,100 or so to 400 and some? Well, you want it, but you don't want to pay for it. And there's no levy committee. So our job up here was to try to get the most protection for the village of Newton Falls. And I believe we're going to do that if we can pass 0.25% and get at least one more sheriff per shift and help this village out. Anybody else want the floor? I'm sorry.
I do. I would like to mention a couple things. And Mr. Rufner did mention the evaluation that was performed by the administration committee. It was presented to council in executive session. I can assure the public that it will be on the next agenda, that we vote on it to release it to the public, because the public does have the right to see the accomplishments that Mrs. Priddy has achieved. They need to also realize that within this evaluation, is also a plan for the future of this community too. So on the next agenda, we will be voting on releasing this evaluation to the public so that they can request it as a public record.
Anyone else want
Yes,
your
please.
second, sir?
Second address. We've sat here and listened to Mr. Rufner, and he says, geez, they gotta be certified. We've had this certified before, city managers, and we got absolutely nothing done. He's got a problem with 90,000. 90,000 is not any money for someone that has the responsibility of this. He's made reference to other communities. Gee, they only pay their city manager this. Newton Falls has a water, sewer, and electric that she's over top of. You've sat here tonight and you've heard about as to where we have problems with the water department. We have to keep that going. In the past, with the electric department, we've done upgrades. We've extended the electric out to Route 5. We're in the process of moving the sewer out there. This is not something that Sebring or any of these other communities of equal size have. They don't have that responsibility. Here in Newton Falls, we do. And Ms. Purdy has handled that admirably. It's a whole separate area that most city managers would not have. It would never be part of their problem. But here it's her daily problem. And she's the supervisor, she's the head of all these departments by charter, not counting all of the, I hate to put a word to it, the different lawsuits, public information requests, frivolous suits or pending suits with no other intention than to delay the city from advancing. That's all it is. You cannot, I heard Mr. Rufner, he said that he's in charge of people with handling public information requests. And he's got 3 people to do it. I guarantee you do not have the employees or the people that are under your direct supervision that Ms. Purdy has. For someone that handles all of the above and still gets all of this done, it's admirable. We've had people that try to stop anything that shows a progression, a continuity, a concern for the people, whether it's senior citizens, lunches coming in and stuff like that. Say, oh, show me your budget. This is separate. The city's not doing that. This is separate. This is scope. And it has not cost the city a dime. All of these city seniors and area seniors that come in, it didn't cost you anything. But it seems to be that Facebook wants to, I don't know, get a lynch mob or something up. We really have to stop and put the monkey where it belongs, and that's the citizens of Newton Falls. You're going to have to quit listening to all of this negative crap that's been put out on Facebook. I'm fortunate. My term ends in January. Look who you're going to have. I'm hoping Mike Kren gets in. One of the reasons I wouldn't want the job again is my age. I'm 80 years old. One of the people who wants to replace me is older than I am, and I know the pressure that goes to it. We look at the others. Who's running? They're not certified. They don't have a big, long degree, but yet they feel they can sit up here and make better decisions than anybody else. I think we should approve this contract If you don't like it, it's still approving the contract, and if you can find someone better for less, go for it. Thank you.
Anybody else like a second address? I'm gonna finish up with my second address. We're starting to work on zoning to clean up the town. We have a lot of good things in the pipeline. You can't straighten up 30 or 40 years, and this started a long time ago. I've been around a long time. A gradual, insidious erosion of this community. Because why? Hey, come here, I. But all I can say, and I'm not gonna start talking down on anybody anymore, but I haven't seen any bridges, hot air balloon rides, ice sculptures, golf carts. I haven't seen any of that. And I'll tell you what, we finally got the book straightened around. And I don't think I'm going to get chastised for this, but our investments weren't in the proper places. We had to move some of them out of there. And now we have, well, over $2 million of our money is getting well over 5%. We've got $7 million. We're going to project, I can't say what it is exactly, but from $250,000 in the hole, not one scrap of paper here to know where to go. Everything was gone. And Mrs. Pretty came in here and made the hard decisions. Look, I'd like to have everything too, but if I want to pay for it. But we didn't have the money, and there had to be some hard decisions. And I credit her for making these hard decisions. And I think the people in Newton Falls, I call it tyranny by the minority in here, is what we've had going on here. 8, 10, or 12 people, tyranny by the minority to rule this town. Well, when the election comes up, I'm not going to stand in the booth. You and God's going to know what you vote for. Vote for what's going on, not what's on Facebook, not what's on. And if anybody wants, look, I'll give you one more. We had a garbage company in here in Ohio Valley. I'm not going to get into up, down, in, or around. But I haven't had one call. Now, I know there's probably been a couple little snafus about picking up. I had a call I did have one call from one of the churches, but it was straightened up like that. I haven't had any calls. If you have something wrong, give me a call. But we were sold a garbage company before, and I don't think the people were well satisfied with it. Hopefully this one is going to do a better job. And that goes with the meetings, that goes with the direct involvement of our city manager, interview all the companies and tell them what we wanted. Not throw it out on the floor and grab it. All right, that's it. Call for the roll, please.
Spitzer,
Yes.
Rufner,
No.
Stimpert,
No.
Federoff,
Yes.
Bariak.
Yes. Motion passes. Would you please read ordinance 2023-37 by title?
2023-37, and ordinance establishing section 153.03 of the Administrative Code pertaining to credit hours for full-time department heads and superintendents who are salaried employees.
I'll
I
make
have a
the,
motion,
I'll make the motion.
Second.
discussion. There's no discussion, would you please call the roll, sir?
Rufner,
Yes.
Stempert,
Yes.
Federoff,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay. We'll go on to 2023-38. Mr. Housley, will you read that?
Ordinance number 2023-38, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to accept the bid of Carrilla Contractors Incorporated for the State Route 5 and State Route 534 sanitary force main lateral service sewer project.
Do I have a motion to put that on the floor?
So moved.
I'll second.
I'd like to say something about this. We came in, what, 20,000 or 10,000 under what we anticipated?
Total overall was a little over 10 under.
This is the, about 5 and 534 lateral sewer project for the Dunkin' Donut. We came in very nice. The Carrilla Company came in very much under what the engineers even thought, which is great. This whole project, moving forward, we're gonna sell our electricity, which the past administration didn't care whether they took Ohio Edison. Well, I'll tell you what, when things come out with the next study, you're gonna be glad you got Newton Falls electricity instead of Ohio Edison. We're gonna sell our electricity out there. He's gonna take our electric. We're opening up the water and sewer out there for advancement of the whole area out there. This is something else that we're trying to work through so we can move this village forward. You can't do everything overnight, but I'll tell you what, we're trying to get some successes for this community. And I think we're achieving it a lot right now. And more down the road. Anybody else want to talk about the
Yes, if it could. Mr. Purdy, is this one here, passing it the way we are, would this give the construction company, because of the weather and everything, time to get this through to where it can be utilized no later than the spring at least?
Correct. That would give them the ability to start this year to put that force main in.
Okay,
yes.
but we've got time, the construction company has time to get this
Yes.
going? Okay, that's
Yep.
that was my main question.
Anybody else like the floor? Oh, I'll finish it up. It's getting a little bit late in the year. So I don't know how fast things are gonna go, but we're on, as far as the paperwork, the annexation and everything else, we're on the fast track. Now, they're not gonna be able to do blacktop, and maybe they won't be able to start the construction till spring. But we've tried our best to hurry this along, but you can't hurry the state. The state, you're gonna do things at their speed. I want to call for the vote then.
Rufner,
Yes.
Stempert,
Yes.
Federoff,
Yes,
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
5 yes.
Okay, we're gonna go on. 2023-39, Mr. Housley.
Ordinance 2023-39, and ordinance authorizing the transfer of funds.
Do I have a motion to put that on the floor?
Make that motion.
Second.
I'd like to ask Mr. Housley if he'd explain this a little bit. Help me out.
Sure. Yes, so, the property was sold, the Dunkin' Donuts property was sold, and, within the agreement, correct me if I'm misspeak here, but within the agreement, it's stated that the proceeds shall be used towards the sewer, the placement of the sewer infrastructure to Dunkin' Donuts. So I've asked this to be up to what we anticipate it to cost. If we don't need all the monies to be transferred, I'll police it and just make sure that only the costs for that infrastructure are transferred. That's it, John.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I'll get that back to him.
If not, I'm going to call for the roll.
Stemper,
Yes.
Fedorov,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Rufner,
Yes.
5 yes.
Motion passes. Okay. Under new business. Ordinance 2023-40. Would you read that by title, sir?
Ordinance 2023-40, and ordinance authorizing and directing the Director of Finance to establish a Community Services and Activities Fund as a special revenue fund and expenditure fund within the village's financial accounts and funds.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, I would like to begin.
Go ahead, Mrs. Spletzer.
I've had a conversation with Mr. Housley, and we feel that creating a specific account that will track well, it just makes it more transparent. That way, if somebody does want public records about the community services or the activities that are going on, they can request specific things from just that fund alone. It just makes it more transparent, excuse me.
May I have an address too? So what I like about this fund is that you're not restricted to only a single activity. So as city manager might propose in the future any event that would be donation driven, we could create a separate cost center for that event. We could just track the receipts and expenditures for each event. And also what I like about this fund is it's primarily donations unless council should decide to subsidize it specifically. I mean, there might be an event in the future where you could, but that's not the intent. That's not what's happening here. The intent right now today really is for any of these activities that we account for within this fund to be funded entirely by donations or fees that are set by a city manager, only specifically to cover the costs. And listen, the one item that I'd like to point out is right now, the intent is to reclassify the senior service program into this, all the receipts, all the disbursements, And I know that now there is a positive net revenue amount, so that would mean that there would be resources within that fund. And the one thing about the way this fund works is any program potentially could use those donated resources for seed money for that program. And that's all I have to say on this.
Any other discussion? Would you like the floor, sir? Go ahead, Mr. Rufner.
This is very similar to how, where I work, we do the budget. We have different fund balances or lines of accounting. The benefit to doing stuff like this, and Sean and I, we've talked before, is this isolates and curtails those funds for that purpose in a segregated account. It doesn't get blended with any other account. It can't be taken from this account to fund something that is not associated with the fund itself. Nor can you bring things from external, like say the general fund. You can't just transfer money into this account without council's approval. So it provides a better oversight, better control, and it's easier to manage from the aspect that you know exactly what you've got within that bucket. So again, I'm very familiar with this format, and it works really well.
Anyone else like the floor, please? Then I'll call, please, Mr. Housley, call for the roll.
Stempert,
Yes.
Federoff,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Rufner,
Yes.
5 yes.
Motion passes. The last one, sir, ordinance 2023-41. Would you read that, please, sir, by title?
Ordinance number 2023-41, and ordinance authorizing the city manager to accept the bid of Pollard Land Services Incorporated, for the Scott Street Phase 2 Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project.
I have a motion to put that on the floor.
So moved.
I'll second.
I sponsored this, but I'd like to say it's been explained tonight by the city manager, but I'll go one more time. We need to pass this by emergency tonight because the contract, if I'm wrong, please correct me, Mrs. Purdy. We have a time deadline on this contract, and we need to get it moving as quickly as possible. And that's the reason why we're putting on it as emergency. This is a win-win-win-win-win situation. This is something that started out in 1998. No one has been able, except this administration, and working with the township, working with somebody instead of against everybody and making enemies, we're able to get this, because the village has been paying, us village residents have been paying on this for a lot of years. This was anticipated when we upgraded before. I think it was, what was it, 2009, Mrs. Purdy, we upgraded?
2009, I believe so.
That we anticipated taking on more people, which we couldn't get the job done. But now we're getting the job done, and it's just a win-win-win. And I'd like to say one other thing. There's another phase of this that maybe won't come or will come right out in that area. But we've already had someone has approached us about paying for it all themselves. We would consider taking them in. We will be looking at that. So this is what we want to do. We're wanting to grow and help our, look, the township is our neighbors. We all go and shop in the same supermarkets. We go to the same churches, different churches, but we all go to, we all are together. It's about helping each other. And it's not about who got the credit or who's going to get the credit or whatever. But it really, the bottom line is moving this whole community forward. So I would hope that this council would, I presume that the council knows that we need to get this done tonight. Thank you. I'll call, if anybody else has any discussion, anybody else want to, go ahead, Mr. Rufner.
Real quick, I just kind of want to reiterate as well. This is 20 years in the project, or in the process. This was started when I sat up here before. This is how long it's taken. We've got an opportunity, and again, we've worked with the county, we've worked with the township, the city administration has been working together, so it's a definite combined effort, joint effort. A lot of people put blood, sweat, and tears into this project. So for us to sit back, stall, and potentially wait for this to fall apart yet again would be, it would not be in the best interest of the community. We're looking at a potential of income coming from the sewer system that's going to be collection and processed through our plant. It is a win-win. It's just unfortunate it's taken this long for it to happen.
Anybody else want anything? I wanted to add one more thing. Mr. Rufner just brought it up. I've never worked with Mr. Denny Malloy and Mr. Mauro Calda Mesa and Mr. Pete Augusta from the township. They stepped up to the plate and they made sure we got the money. We needed the money. Matter of fact, we got an extra $50,000 over what, so we could try to get everybody. And they gave us the extra $50,000 out of the ARPA, which maybe, it was EPA mandated, I understand this. But you know, when those funds everybody has their hand out for a little bit, maybe somebody had to go without their project. You know, somebody wanted a floor for their gazebo, but they stepped forward and stepped up to the plate. Mauro and Danny Malloy and Mr. Pete Augusta worked hand in glove with Mrs. Pretty and our administration, and we got the figures that would work. They could never get the figures to work as far as the rate. We negotiated a rate what everybody's happy with, and it's just a total win-win for this whole area, something that started in '98. Without any more, if there's nobody else wants the floor, would you like the floor, Mr. Spletzer? Okay, would you like it, Mr.
No,
Spletzer? All right, I'm gonna call for the roll, please.
Federoff,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Rufner,
Yes.
Stempert.
Yes.
5 yes.
5-0, passes. Gonna read it again, by title only? Or do we have to read it again, Mr. Parliamentarian? We have to read it one more time, it's emergency?
Yes.
By title?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Would you please read that one more time, sir?
Ordinance number 2023-41, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to accept the bid of Pollard Land Services Incorporated for the Scott Street Phase 2 Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project.
If there's no discussion, is there any discussion? We've
I'll
gone
make the
through it already.
motion.
Motion.
I'll make the motion.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry. You're making the motion? Who's gonna, do I have a second?
I'll make the second.
I have a second then to pass it. Well, there's no discussion, can we have the roll? Is there any discussion? Can we please have the roll?
Federoff,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spletzer,
Yes.
Rufner,
Yes.
Stempert.
Yes.
5 yes.
Motion passes. Okay, we're going to go to public comments. Would anybody like to address the chair tonight?
Sorry, Julie Lemon, 609 Ridge Road. I wanted to come here. I wasn't even gonna come tonight, but, I heard some things when I was at home and listening to it on YouTube, and were a little bit disturbing. So first off, I want to publicly make a public records request right now, in person, on the record, for the documentation that Mrs. Pretty said was sent to the court and sent to the judge, was her words, regarding Heritage Accord, which would be case number 2023 CV 01097. The last thing on the docket is the journal entry from the judge, signed by Mrs. Pretty. Nothing else is on there. It's signed by the member of Heritage Accord, both attorneys and the judge, and it's dated 9/26/23.
Excuse me, ma'am, 1 second.
It's public comments, you can't interrupt
Excuse
me.
I want to ask the parliamentary, sir, public attacks, is there a way that they can see our law director or anybody and make these attacks without personal names that sharing that? I'm not trying to deny them their freedom of speech, but is there a way that this should be done or could be handled besides?
Well, I'm not sitting in as the acting law director. I really couldn't speak, and I learned of this lawsuit just this afternoon. What it requires or doesn't require, and
I'm making a public records request right now.
Oh, okay.
what is the request? I didn't hear it.
When I was at home and watching this meeting, Mrs. Pretty, our city manager, said that documentation was sent to the judge regarding the court case with Heritage Accord. I am publicly asking for that documentation for a public records request.
Well, it may not be public yet.
It is public record because the court case is public record. I just gave the court case number. You can look it all up online.
Well, no, but the inquiry evidently concerns matters which are not public. It's my understanding that this case is settled now.
It's closed without the documentation that she's saying. So I'm publicly asking for what she stated on the floor. I'm not done with my comments. Please stop interrupting me.
Well, you asked a question and you...
I didn't ask a question. He asked the question. Please stop interrupting my time. It's very rude and unprofessional.
No, I'm not going to let you get away with that. I'm sorry. I want to be heard in answer to a question that was referred to me, okay? I understand that this matter is settled. The terms of the settlement have not been announced, so they are not public.
I wish you knew what you were talking about. Okay, next case, 2023 CV 01498.
3 minutes.
No, I get my time because they kept interrupting. I did not get my 3 minutes. Better start the clock again. 2023 CV 01498. Anyone know what that's about? Since it was not made clear to the people of this community, I will tell you guys what it's about. That has to do with the September 11th meeting minutes. That injunction was filed and won against council because meeting minutes were falsified. The people of this town want to know the truth. You talk about transparency, there it is. There it is. That's not an attack, that's a fact. That is a fact. And the other thing I had to say is that I'm not going to attack you. I'm just going to say, stop talking to us like we're children. You do. You ooze with arrogance, and it's disgusting and nasty. Please stop.
Well, quit yelling at people.
I'm not yelling. I'm
Yes,
talking
you
in the
are.
mic.
You're yelling. You can talk in a very nice voice, please.
I'm not
Don't yell
yelling.
at me either. I don't take that.
I'm not yelling at you.
Yes, you are.
Point of order.
4.5 minutes.
All right. What's your point of order, sir?
We are not to engage in back and forth banter.
I understand that.
I feel sad for our community. I thank you for everything you do. And I thank you for everything you do. And brighter days will come when 3 of you are gone and off council, and Pam Priddy is no longer the city manager. Thank you.
Chelsea Harper, 515 High Street. So I go back to this all the time, but I can remember when my mom was on council, nobody could address each other. You can't specifically say names. You can't call out the old administration. It is wrong. It is wrong talking about old administration, new administration. The only thing that you are up there to do is run the city. The city is run exactly like a business. Any business knows that you don't pull money out of thin air. When you get rid of a department because you don't have the money and you have to dissolve that department, that money doesn't just flow into a contract for a new human being. That is not how business works. So all of a sudden, we go from being $250,000 in the hole to having $2 million investments? That's not how that works. And there's no paperwork, no documents that you guys have actually submitted to any of us to prove that that's there. When we ask questions, we get roundabouts. When we make public records requests, we get half of it. There is no actual documentation for anything that you have talked about. All we ever hear is the good that certain people do, or how this is completely turned around with no actual proof. You know what there is proof to? The negative. There is proof to every negative thing that you guys are butting against. There is lawsuits to prove all of that. There is lawsuits that people have won that cost more than your investments. How do you pull that money out of thin air without coming after taxpayers is the question. And if you have all of that money available and can guarantee a fail-safe contract, which is what that was a fail-safe. That was making sure that no matter what happens in November, that person and the person they hired is protected. And I'm sorry, but just doing your job does not earn you that much money. There is a ladder you have to climb. In every single business structure, it is a ladder. You start at the bottom and you move up. It doesn't matter how many flowers you plant outside or how many seniors you give a breakfast to. What matters is what is on paper and what is documented. And what's on paper right now is not good. We have no proof of the actual good. Facebook might not be the law, but it sure as hell is where the receipts are getting put up with the negative and none of the positive that you're talking about.
Anybody else would like to address the chair? Mr. Federoff, would you like any closing remarks?
Wait, you got one.
Wait a minute. Oh, go ahead, Sir, would you, come on up here. I'm sorry. I didn't see you back there.
And there's some crazy stuff going on in this town. All you people gotta do is look at that sign, working towards a better tomorrow. That's all we want in Newton Falls. And this contract is gonna do that for us. 4 years. No more bickering. We need to end this and move forward. Just do your job and move the town forward. Thank you.
I would only say that I'll use an analogy as far as the contract's considered. I listened to what Mr. Rufner was saying. I'd have to check that. I checked it at one other time. It was closer to 95,000, but for a city manager. But even that, at the 76,000, if you've got 25,000 in extras, that's well over 90. Ms. Purdy she's not getting any more than the 90,000. I think it was a good choice. It's sort of like you start out at something like sports. You're a quarterback. Just because you have 3 years in, you don't get paid for 3 years. You get paid because you're better. A better quarterback gets paid more money, even the same amount of years as he's got against someone else. That's good business. Sports is big business. Miss Purdy gets paid more because she's better. They also protect their people. It was already admitted in the media and in fact in public records that the previous people who got the extra monies in the contracts were for protection because they were afraid that they would lose their jobs if people got into being counsel. They admitted that. There is a price to pay. That's just America. They admitted it. So what? It's government. It's politics. It's what it is. She's earned the money. She's a better quarterback than others. She should get the money. That's how I feel about it.
On the Bright 326 Washington, you know, everybody can conveniently, I'm not said one thing about the money or anything else, but every person that I've heard tonight conveniently leaves out the fact there's no evaluations for those 4 years, there's no checks and balances. Everybody seems to leave that out when I'm not saying anything that any person has done wrong. I like the senior breakfasts, the lunches, I think they're great. But everybody that says everything good seems to leave out that one little thing. There's no checks and balances for the taxpayers. This isn't your money up there, it's the taxpayers' money. It's the taxpayers' money. Again, has anybody up there ever had a job where you didn't have an evaluation or a check and balance unless you own the business? Everybody does. That is, and this especially is for the taxpayers' protection. Not talking about the 90,000. I don't care about that. I don't care about anything else. You fired someone for this same thing, and then you felt so strongly about it, you spent the taxpayers' money to fight it. You spent our money to fight the same thing you're doing now. How do you justify that? You spent the taxpayers' money to do, and then, in fact, then you told why you did it was because it wasn't a good thing for the taxpayers and everything else, basically short. And then you did the turnaround and did the same thing. I don't care that Pam, city manager, that has nothing to do with it. I care you spent our money to do this. Why'd you spend our money? Our money. To do what you're doing now. If it was okay then, why didn't you just let it go? You spent the taxpayers' money to do what you're doing now. And then, at the time, I guess you were telling them you thought you did the right thing. But you're doing, I wish they were watching this. They could say, listen, why'd you even waste the attorney's money on the other side when you should just give it to them? You spent our money to do exactly, to fight what you're doing now. I said, a lot of good has been done. That isn't my point. The point is you took the power away from the people, the checks and balances. You eliminated it. And you spent our money to fight it the last time, which I thought you did. You spent it to fight it. That one person up there has had a job by an employer, where you didn't get evaluations or checks and balances or anything. Not one person up there. And again, I challenge you, tell me a person that has got hired and can do whatever they want, and I'm not saying that person's going to do it, where there's no checks and balances. I've been in my place for 31 years. If I'm late tomorrow after 31 years, I'm gonna get in trouble. You know why? Because I'm paid by the taxpayer.
Never been so disappointed in a group of people in my life. The majority of council.
Name and address?
Oh, Heather Bright, 326 Washington. I apologize. I've never spoken here before. Anyway, and I'm disappointed, and it has nothing to do with the contract. I'm disappointed how the majority of council demands respect, will throw you out of a meeting, will threaten somebody because they're getting a cough drop from their wife, yet will let the sitting council members degrade the public. You folks want respect, and I get it. I do. Why don't you give it back? You don't want to be trash talk. Get that too. Give it back. Don't trash talk us. Some people can learn from not Facebook because we're adults and we fact check. We don't call names, big guy. Give it to us. We'll give it to you. Just keep doing the right thing. But you don't. You roll your eyes, you call names, and you assume we're idiots. We're not. Some of us aren't. If you want respect, give it. That's it.
That it? Anybody else, please? We start with council now. Any closing comments?
Yeah.
Mr. Federer?
Very briefly here, I don't believe council called anyone names. As far as saying what was been done in the past, that's to give you an idea of where we're at now. We're not just sailing along smooth, we're trying to cover up, it's not a good word, we're trying to take care of and correct things that have been done incorrectly in the past. So it's not we're bringing up trying to pass blame to someone, we're trying to show you as to where your city is at. Do we spend taxpayers' money? Of course we spend taxpayers' money. That's part of our job up here. Does that make it wrong? No, that's what council is for. That's what government does. That's why you pay your taxes. We don't take it and bury it in the backyard someplace. It's spent for the good of the community. And I believe that's what we have done. That's what Ms. Pretty has done. Is the money that comes in is for the good of the community. It's not, hey, let's all take a vote and see what Facebook says or what the 10 people in council think about it. No, whether you like it or not, we do have administrators. We pay for administrator. We have council people. Their job is to represent you. Hey, if you don't like it, run for office, change it, whatever. But the fact remains, we represent you.
Hey, that's your first warning, sir. Okay, thank you.
I won't comment on that. It's just reflective of a lot of people's attitude. It's, you have to approve, you have to satisfy everybody. And that just flat can't be done. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Spletcher, do you want to, Mr. Rufner?
Again, just as a reminder, late night in the falls tonight. Come on out. That's all I've got.
Anybody else, Mrs. Stemper?
No, I have nothing.
Okay. I've rambled enough tonight as far as let my opinion know what I have. But I want to tell you something and let you know. I've had people attack me. As a matter of fact, I've got knocked down before, a lot of times. How do you think I ever learned how to get up? So I know all about getting knocked down. There's people that come up here every week, Yak, 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 yak. I don't care if they do anything for the village, but they don't want to see anything good done for the village. You have to look at what's going on and take a look at the whole picture. As far as being a representative of the ICMA, we had a couple of them. The one guy was up there in Sebring. I don't know, maybe he didn't want the job anymore, but they didn't even hire him, Mr. Haney. Maybe he didn't want it anymore, I don't know, but they got somebody else up there now at 73 or 76.5 plus all benefits in Sebring. I'm going to tell you something tonight, and maybe I'm going to go way off the deep end, but when you want to benefit the people is one thing, but when you want to benefit yourself, that's another thing. And I remember being up at Camp Garfield with our economic development team, which was Mr. Waddell and Mr. Alberini. And they were trying to figure out what they were going to name the Ravenna Arsenal. And somebody said, I said, why don't we name it after the people? Camp 223 or whatever, the igloo that blew up and killed all them people. And they said, yeah, we'll consider that. Somebody said, why don't we name it after a Medal of Honor winner? That was a great idea. Mr. Alberini said, why don't we have a vendor show where we could have it set up, everybody could come up and set up their wares. Hello? Then we had legislators and lattes. And the last one, we invited the Turnpike. Ice sculptures and everything. Wonder what that was for. What did we get out of that? What did we get out of any of them? If somebody wants to take cheap shots at me, it don't bother me. You got to look at the quality of the people. And the people that don't do anything for this community, some of them come up here. I don't mind if they don't do anything. But a couple of them come up here, and there were people crying there were people crying at the lunch. And they appreciate what somebody goes out of their way and goes on their own time. And that's not just Mrs. Pretty. That's a bunch of volunteers that are up here every day. What can I do? What can I help? What can I donate? But the rest of them that come up here, and there's an 85-year-old woman that was up here trying to, well, I think everybody knows who I'm talking about. Would rather begrudge somebody something good in this community. Has Mrs. Pretty not earned that contract? Just think where we can be in 2 or 3 years if we keep moving this way. Instead of having self-serving people that are all about what can I do for me? Well, I hope the people will understand that. If you don't, you don't. But to throw, anybody can throw charges. And look, somebody came up here tonight and said, I want to see the records. Or we don't believe you. Well, the records are where they're at. Come up here, the books are open. See the finance department, let them know what you want, what you're after. Some of the people in here couldn't understand a spreadsheet if you put it right in front of them. So, you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe some of them know more than me. Ma'am, that's your first warning. That's your second warning. Where's the, have her, what is your name, ma'am?
You just called me stupid, I don't know my name.
I didn't call you stupid. I said,
People can't read spreadsheets.
I'm telling you, ma'am, that's your second warning. What is your name? Would you please get the officer over here? Get the officer here. Have her escorted out of here. Get her out of here. We read the thing tonight. We're gonna have decorum here. You've had your chance to talk. Now. Well, why didn't you talk? You had a right to talk.
Point of order.
Ma'am, excuse me.
John.
I'm not gonna argue with you. You know the rules.
So do you. Don't call your constituents stupid.
I didn't call anybody stupid. All I said is some people wouldn't understand a spreadsheet.
I'd
I
like
didn't
to
say
make a
it.
motion to adjourn.
No.
All right, well, as soon as I get this lady, because we're not going on with this.
But motion to adjourn overrides.
Huh?
Motion to adjourn overrides. It has.
All right, yes, sir. Motion to over, to,
If there's a second.
I'll
second.
second.
Well, actually, it doesn't, but it may be a good idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Call for the roll.
Stimpert,
Yes.
Federoff,
Yes.
Bariak,
Yes.
Spitzer,
Yes.
Rufner.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
You want this turned off up here?